I've been trying to wrap my head around the Matt Gaetz nomination for Attorney General by Trump for a while now, because it's a difficult thing to understand, like just looking at the face of it, why he's made this decision. Of course, you can make the loyalty excuse, but Trump is burning through a lot of political capital for one specific appointment that is really hard to understand. Now, most presidents, when they come into office, they normally do so with a honeymoon period, as it were, like a grace period where people tend to give them credit because they're new. Joe Biden had that for a time, but then once the Afghanistan withdrawal was kind of mangled and messed up, a lot of that went away and his honeymoon period ended. But most presidents still get that stretch where people give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, this is the new guy, let's see what he can do. But we are less than 3 weeks post-election at this point. Trump is not president yet, and he's already burning bridges and destroying what political capital he has at this point. One of the reasons I call it confusing is because Trump wants to do a lot, or at least people in his administration want to, and he needs political goodwill, political capital, and like a positive perception to try and pull this off without completely bungling it. The first example of this is, like, look at Elon Musk and his proposal in this Doge Department of Government Efficiency that he's created, where he's talking about trying to lay off 75% of those who work for federal bureaucracies. That's like everything from like the Department of Justice over to the Food and Drug Administration, firing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in a way that he is actually like openly admitted to is going to cause a lot of hardship for American people. Look, politicians all over the world have made arguments like, look, we're going to go through rough times, short-term pain for long-term economic growth or success or whatever. But Trump has said that, like, as soon as he gets in, he wants the economy to recover, prosperity, inflation down, life for the working class a lot easier. And he's like, seemingly, director of government efficiency is saying the exact opposite is going to happen. And you do not want to be in a position where you're already unpopular and then you start making life for regular working people even more difficult. So I'm going to try and come up with an explanation. Like, why has he made this Gaetz appointment? Why is he making enemies of people that he needs on his side within not just like Congress, but like specifically the Republican Party, who absolutely detest Matt Gaetz and will probably vote against him if there is like a traditional confirmation process? Well, I think the first argument, like, this is steel manning, giving the best possible argument in Trump's favor as to why he's doing this. Maybe he explicitly wants to get Matt Gaetz out of Congress. Gaetz has been a thorn in the side of congressional Republicans for a while now. If you recall, he was basically the orchestrator that got Kevin McCarthy kicked out of the Speaker's chair and led that far-right revolution against the establishment Republicans, which really threw off their agenda for a while and made like the House of Representatives basically chaos for the last 2 years. And look, Matt Gaetz was under investigation for allegedly sleeping with a minor and illicit drug use. So he has been a public relations disaster, and he's been causing active problems for the Republican Party for basically as long as he's been in Congress. So an argument that could be made is that Trump, even though he knows that Matt Gaetz will not get confirmed by the Senate and cannot become Attorney General, gave him the offer because then it gives Matt Gaetz an opportunity to leave Congress, save face, and basically play this all off as a win. Because now that Gaetz isn't in Congress, Congress cannot publish its investigation as to whether or not he did commit those alleged crimes. So Gaetz gets to leave and say it's because he wants to be Attorney General, as opposed to very obviously quitting his job in the House of Representatives because he doesn't want an investigation to be published against him. So in that scenario, lovely old Matt gets the excuse of he quit Congress to try and become Attorney General, not the fact that he didn't want that investigation to be published, and then he can't run for Attorney General because Senate Republicans block him. He can throw a tantrum about the establishment right off into the sunset, and then he's no longer a problem for the Republican Party. The second possibility that I see, which is a lot more concerning and I think upsettingly a lot more likely, is that Trump wants to use Gaetz specifically as a means by which to tear the Department of Justice apart, and he has no care whatsoever for political goodwill. One thing we know for certain is that Trump's cabinet, he really wants to appoint them via recess appointments, meaning he doesn't need congressional approval, but if he does that, the people that he appoints to his cabinet will only be able to serve for half of his term. But that might be all that he thinks he needs. I've spoken before that I think Trump is well aware that the next 2 years are really all that he has left. After the midterms, Republicans won't control Congress. There'll be a lot of negotiating in government policy between the Democrats and the Republicans. So everything I can see points to a quite depressing reality that Trump knows he has these 2 years with Congress on his side. He can appoint whatever cabinet he wants, and he can just go absolute pedal to the metal insane with his policy objectives, with no one really in any capacity able to stop him. Because let's say that Matt Gaetz becomes Attorney General and he's the head of the Department of Justice. What he could do is prosecute Trump's political opponents or anyone he sees as a threat with the entire power of the federal government. And look, he's a die-hard Trump loyalist. He's going to do what he's told to do. And second is that you put that man in charge of the Department of Justice, he can tear it apart so that the DOJ can't be used against Trump once he's out of office and can't run for re-election again. So I think those are the two realities that we're dealing with. Number one is that this is a show by Trump to congressional Republicans. Look, I've taken the leader, de facto leader of the far right in Congress, in the Republican Party, and I have completely cut him out of the system. That is a massive showing of goodwill. Now stay in line with my agenda and don't oppose me in any capacity. That would be what Trump supporters call his 4D chess move, some grand overarching plan to get any more Republicans he needs on side. The second argument then is that what this is just further evidence that Trump, with a un-Senate approved cabinet, is going to spend the next 2 years going above and beyond to achieve everything he couldn't in his first term. I think that second possibility basically confirms that Trump is aware that there is no political future for him after this term, and that he is doing everything in his power to gamble on and bet that if he goes as aggressive as possible with his picks and with his policy, that the legacy that he wants to leave behind, he's going to try and achieve in just the next 2 years with absolutely nobody in any position of power to even try and stop him.